So, since this is the ghost episode, what is the first ghost story you ever heard?
So we've kind of talked about this before when my parents came to visit, but I think I really got into scary stuff because the first ghost story I ever heard was from my dad. He grew up in a small town called Newtown in Connecticut, and it's kind of like an old colonial town. And while he was growing up there, he lived in this like 200-year-old farmhouse. Old as fuck, bro. So while he was living there was just like weird shit that would always go down. Just unexplained oddities from him, my aunt, my grandma. They would always tell me stories. But the first one the earliest one I can remember was my dad said that there was one night that he was watching TV in the old barn house. It was like classic little red barn. And my grandpa was kind of tough and like pretty strict. So he was like, "All right, Sam, you have to come back inside and go to bed." So my dad goes into the regular house and my grandpa was like, "Damn it, Sam. You didn't turn off the lights or the TV like I asked you to." And so my dad goes back. And then he comes into the house and everything goes on again. And my grandpa was like, I mean, he was scary. He was like 6'4", former like football player, terrifying dude. And he's like, "Go turn that shit off. Why are you messing with me?" And my dad's like, "I swear I'm not." So he does this again, and it's a couple more times, and my grandpa's like, "Damn it, Sam, I'm gonna go with you." So they go together. They turn the lights off, turn the TV off, go back into the house, and they look. And everything's on again. And things like that would just always happen in this house. Like, my grandma said she would always hear babies crying at night.
Oh.
And there's no babies around. Like, weird, freaky things. And actually, we have talked about maybe doing an episode over there if you guys would be interested in that, please let us know.
A little paranormal activity types.
Yeah, because there's quite a backstory to that house, because it used to be like, what's it called? Not funeral, a funeral parlor. They used to have funerals in the house. Weird energy.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. What about you? What's your first ghost story?
Ooh, so, as always, I couldn't remember. But I asked my mom, and she reminded me of this story of, so it happened to my uncle, and he was with his like elderly parents, and I think they were either returning or heading to a funeral. And they were trying to hail down an auto rickshaw, which is like the 3-wheel like public transport type thing in India.
Yeah.
So they were trying to like stop one because they were like getting late. And this guy, he like slowed down in front of them, and he was like, "Hey guys, just wait. I'll drop my current like, traveler, passenger, and then I'll come and get you for the next fare." And my uncle's parents didn't even hear that. They were elderly, and they like got onto the moving auto rickshaw. And this auto driver, he was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, let him get out, let him get out." And they were like, "Who are you talking about?" And this auto rickshaw driver had apparently driven like all around town with this one passenger in the back of his auto rickshaw who wasn't even there. And
Like,
he
disappeared?
was like, he maybe disappeared, but he said that he had been having a conversation with this dude in his auto rickshaw for like half an hour, like just dropping him off different places. And he would keep like telling him, because it's a good fare, so he would keep telling him like, "Hey, stop, I'm gonna come back." And then he would get onto the auto rickshaw again, and his meter was running, so you could see like
someone had been
in
what
the
the
auto
fuck?
rickshaw. And so this auto driver, he's like frozen, like my uncle's asking him like, "Are you okay? What exactly did you see?" And he's like convinced that there was somebody in his auto rickshaw, like driving up the meter and stuff. And then my uncle asked him, "Where did you pick him up from?" And he said he picked him up from the cemetery. So that was that my mom reminded me of that ghost story, and that was like, because it's also obviously like, yeah, I'm a skeptic, whatever, but
That's weird.
there's no reason for that auto driver to
Especially
think
if the meter
those,
was
right?
running.
Yeah,
That's
because
like
then he
tech
needed to
stuff.
get paid, and like, you know, all of
He didn't get paid?
no, he didn't get paid
That's
because the ghost
insane.
never finished his ride.
There's a story, you know Bela Lugosi, the original Dracula?
Mm.
Like, you know, the old black and white, like
Yeah,
Dracula
yeah,
with
yeah.
the cape and everything.
Yeah. I don't think I actually know the story of Dracula, but because
Well,
I think
Okay.
I've seen it, but like a long time ago.
He's like old Hollywood actor, like classic.
Oh,
Old Hollywood actor.
yeah.
That's all you need to know about it. But so he went like super broke towards the end of his life just because like it's sad. Like there's character actors and stuff like that where you just kind of run out of jobs because everyone just wants to know you for that one thing. And there's a very similar story to that where people, I think he's like, it was back when LA still had cabs or something. And he has been seen sitting on the bench waiting for the bus or waiting for a cab outside of the cemetery, supposedly where he's buried, which I've been to. And he was buried in his cape, and they say that he's like an old man with his cape on still.
Damn.
So he's like easy to spot.
Yeah,
But I don't know. They say that about Marilyn Monroe, I think, too, though.
Yeah.
I've also been to that grave.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah. Weird, though. I'd be so freaked out.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if there's any Uber ghost stories out there.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I think since we're on the topic of ghost stories, it's not one of the first I heard, but when we were like making horror films in college, we would all like tell each other ghost stories.
Yeah.
And there's this one forest in Mumbai. The area is called Are Mills, and it's like a forest area. And it's very like dark, and there's no lights on the road or anything at night. And one of my friends was I think he was in a cab or something, and it was just him and the cab driver. And suddenly, in the middle of like driving through this forest, the cab driver starts speeding up, and my friend's like asking him like, "What are you doing? Like, please slow down, drive safely. It's like dark." And the cab driver is like frozen in place. And when he finally gets the cab driver to like look at him, the cab driver just points in the rearview mirror, and this is what he told me. He sees a woman with like her legs twisted the other way, running behind the car. And so both
Hell
of them.
no.
Yeah, 'cause
dude.
At that point, I was like, did you turn around and see? And he was like, no, I didn't see. And I was like, oh, yeah, sorry. I was like trying to interrogate him. But he was like, no, obviously I didn't turn around to look at the woman who was running. But yeah, there's a woman. There's a lot of stories of a woman in a
With
white
her
sari, but
Legs turn around,
yeah,
though?
with her legs twisted the wrong.
Can you be that fast with your eggs turned or like?
Yeah. Have you seen The
Hey,
Exorcist?
I don't think she was actually running with her legs, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Like, there's the, what's it, like?
The Exorcist walk?
Yeah, The Exorcist walk. Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
actually do that pretty fast.
Yeah. Nice.
Maybe a TikTok clip. What?
Let's not and say we did.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Ghost stories are fun.
They are.
I think, yeah.
Would you like to experience something really fucked, though? But then to have that story?
Yeah. I
Me
think
too.
because I'm not looking for it. Like, I'm not looking for like a paranormal experience, but I think I want to know how I would feel if I experienced it more than actually
Exactly.
experiencing it.
Yeah.
Like,
Would
it's
it
a
be flight or
mystery.
fight? Or would
Yeah.
you just kind of freeze up? I think I personally would freeze up
Yeah.
and just chill, but internally not be chilling.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know how I would react because, like,
I mean, I've
yeah,
had
I don't
weird
know.
things happen
Mm.
because I'm a believer,
Mhm.
but you're a little more on the fence.
Yeah.
But I haven't had something that I think back on and I'm like, oh my God, I can't go to sleep now.
Yeah.
I think I'd like one that causes just ultimate unrest for me for a little bit. Because, I don't know, I think it'd be fun to write about later.
Yeah.
Mhm. Hi, my name is Becky,
Hi, my name is Sahiti.
and you're listening to Final Girls Guide. So today our episode is, should we drop that we're reshooting?
Yeah.
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 Guys, we had some technical issues that were a real pain in the ass.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, it could be the ghost in the studio bothering
Yeah.
us, but
I think they're fucking with us a little bit.
somehow when we started talking about ghosts, our ghost episode vanished.
Malfunctioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are doing Ghost,
Yep.
and we're going to be starting off with our main pick, which is The Haunting of Hill House by Mike Flanagan.
Awesome show.
Amazing show. I mean, Haunting of Hill House, I feel like was a big introduction to what is it they're calling? The Flaniverse?
Flaniverse,
Yeah, the Flaniverse. And just his, let's be real, genuine genius.
Yeah.
It's unlike any other ghost show because I think he really went the extra mile to make sure that we could relate to everyone, and he humanized the ghost, the people being haunted. He even humanized the house itself to be this almost demonic, ungodly monstrosity of a setting.
And it was done like very subtly throughout the entire show. Like there was like this impending sense of doom, but again, it's like very hard with a limited series. You can't make a whole movie for every episode, and you can't make one long movie that stretches across every episode because then people will get bored.
But he always says that it's like he got to shoot a 9-hour-long movie.
I know, but I mean, as is the case with all limited series, but story structure-wise, it wasn't.
It's different.
Yeah, it was so well done because
You have to tune in for every episode.
yeah, and each episode focuses on a different person from the family. There's obviously the one episode that everyone talks a lot about is the one-shot episode,
Beautifully.
which is amazing. But yeah, I think it was just, I think it was one of the shows on Netflix that definitely got me more into horror, which I say a lot about a lot of things, but I vividly remember that feeling of like, oh, this is something I want to do.
Well, because, yes, it's a horror. And we've talked about it before with movies like Hereditary. This one really is a sort of subtle dramedy.
Yeah.
Or
Family drama.
family drama masked in a horror movie.
Yeah.
And a lot of the elements, because, I mean, to me, five siblings, right?
Yes.
2...
3 sisters,
Yeah,
2
yeah.
brothers.
5 siblings is a big fucking family.
Yeah.
But with that, the 5 siblings, you have so many different point of views that you can really kind of relate to. I found myself personally, and I feel like this is the consensus online, I relate the most to Theo, Kate Sigil's character, which is Mike Flanagan's hot-ass wife in real life. But there's little bits and pieces to all the characters that I can resonate with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I also resonate with Theo a lot. I think there's also, oh my God, Luke? Is that the
Yes.
twin? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I relate to him that much, but I do.
Sympathize with him.
Yeah, I feel like his story was done very well, and it's like very hard to touch on like addiction but I think it was done very well. And it was, it was a very emotional story for the most part, which I didn't see a lot in Bly Manor. I feel like that was more of like there was a huge like crime and mystery part of that, which I liked, but I felt like the story really picked up in that one episode where everything was black and white, and they went back to the story of, the two sisters and like the origins of Bly Manor. But with Hill House, it was consistent.
Exactly.
And I think every single family member's story and backstory was touched on with like equal importance. And yeah, it just kept me watching.
Well, and all the elements and the issues they're dealing with are so different, but connect so well as siblings.
Yeah.
But I did really enjoy the show, and it made me cry. It made me laugh. I rewatch it all the time. Now, something I do want to dive into is specifically Mike Flanagan. I'm a believer, you're a skeptic. And I've been following a lot of anything Mike Flanagan drops because that man's the best. I mean, there's very few directors and artists out there that not only is he very involved in his community and his fan base, but also he brings people together. And he literally, he's a big reason that formed our friendship.
Yeah.
So my question is, he has said in multiple interviews that he is a skeptic.
Yes.
I know. You get one. You get one, yes. Sadie.
And the one is Mike Flanagan.
I know. I'll find one for me. Team believer, guys. Yeah. Please let me know. But what is that like for you? Because for me, I was shocked because I felt like the way he shot Ghost and the emotions I felt, it felt so real. I was like, this has to be someone that's like a diehard believer too. But that's not the case. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about putting something in storytelling like the supernatural that you don't believe in?
I think...
And translating it.
Yeah. I think, it doesn't really have to do only with skeptics. I think believers can also create amazing horror, obviously. But for me, the way I see it is that as a skeptic, I feel like I have more room to imagine horror. And I have, not that I have like a belief to compare it to because I am a skeptic, but sometimes I feel like if you're a believer, then you're trying to follow like a certain path of that belief of like, oh, this is what happens when this ghost appears, or like, something like that. But even with, any project that I'm working on with supernatural horror or anything like that, it's like the skepticism is like a path for me to create from the ground up something that's horrifying. But that's just for me. Maybe Mr. Flanagan can relate to that. I don't know. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But
Flanagan, comment if you like our podcast.
Yeah.
If you ever see it.
That would be, wow. That would be a dream come true.
I cry.
Yeah. But also, I think Mike Flanagan is also an editor. And I think that comes... I'm not saying that...
Magic.
Yeah, that I don't think that relates to the skepticism, but I think that when you're writing and directing and you have editing in mind, I think that can also add to the skepticism because you're not thinking about, the horror of the story. You're thinking about the...
movie magic of it.
Exactly. So that's something that I can relate to, but maybe that's, a part of where his skepticism comes from. And I'm just happy to have someone on my team.
I know. Your team's awesome. We should...
You have a bunch of good ones, I'm sure.
I don't know. We should do a post, honestly, after this episode of, like, all of the directors in horror or, like, just iconic people in horror that are either believers
or non-believers.
Skeptics.
Yeah. That would be nice.
I got Zach Bagans. That one's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We do the, what's it called? Like the have them fight against each other and see who wins. You know what? I don't know what that's called. Yeah, the bracket. But yeah.
New bracket. Post Oscars,
Yeah.
which we got demolished by.
I don't want to talk about it
talk about
anymore.
it. It's fine.
I
It's
think
over with.
we've ducked down
yeah.
enough on the Oscars and the Academy.
Just
Yeah.
it burns a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you guys follow Mike Flanagan on Tumblr?
Yes.
I should.
Yeah, he posts a lot of replies to asks, and there was one this week that I saw that it was a student who was asking him about grief and horror, and he said that he was trying to write about like grief and horror, and his teacher was like, it said that grief has no place in horror, and so he wrote into Mike Flanagan.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. So he wrote into Mike Flanagan like, my teacher said this, like how do I deal with this? And Mike Flanagan was like, I think he literally said, your teacher is an idiot.
That's true.
Yeah.
Listen to your teacher's stupid.
I'm not a very like judgmental person. I feel
am.
like I
Bitch.
yeah.
In Women's History Month?
That's why we
I'm
oppose
a
each
proud
other.
bitch.
Who knows who the teacher was? I'm saying whoever the teacher was is stupid.
Yeah, fuck that
Especially
teacher.
if it was a film teacher.
Writing, creative writing.
Oh,
Oh,
fuck them
God.
heavily.
Oh God.
Have they read anything by fucking Edgar Allan Poe?
I know.
That's pretty much all horror and goddamn grief over
Yeah.
his 13-year-old wife.
Oh my God.
Well, we can dive into that
That's
one
a
in another
different
episode.
I feel like I'm grieving the fact that you just said that. Oh. But yeah, I mean,
he
it's
was, I think her
unfortunate,
name was
but-
Virginia or something. He was, yeah. I mean, he drank himself to death. He was a problem.
Allegedly. He might have been murdered.
He drank himself to death. Let's not. I feel like that rumor started, and it's like the man was an alcoholic, and that's okay. I mean, it's not okay. I don't know what I'm saying.
I
I'm just
love
gonna
the
shut
direction
the
we turned this in. I think, yeah, I think the craziness of that statement, just taking like Haunting of Hill House.
He married his 13-year-old first cousin when he was 27.
You didn't have to do that to
had-
Sahiti. Sahiti didn't need to know that.
Yeah.
Guess what? I know the facts, guys.
He had better have drunk himself to death.
He did.
Like
He
if
did.
after all of that, he
Yeah.
didn't feel like he should have
I
alcohol.
don't even think she made it to 17, too. I think she died from, like, scarlet fever or whatever the fuck people died from back then.
Consumption, pneumonia, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Tripping.
Literally.
People still die of pneumonia.
People still die of tripping too.
People still die of tripping. Final Destination just dropped.
Isn't that? I mean, yeah, I don't want to derail us anymore, but wasn't that also the time when like people would like throw poop out of their windows? Yes. What's it called?
Can you imagine walking on down the street
No.
and someone just hits you with their shit?
Well, they're supposed
Literally.
to call out. They
yeah,
have
they
to
would
say
call
something.
out. Yeah.
What do you? What? Incoming poo.
Shit. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So going back to Haunting of Hill House, what do you guys, in your opinion, what makes the ghosts in this portrayal different from other like ghost stories or movies or any other portrayal?
Grief. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm still salty about that.
I think, well, kind of similar to that. It's a humanization. I come from a family where I think I also related a lot to Haunting of Hill House because I grew up with a dad with a haunted house, and he, there was some family death that was pretty traumatizing. And some weird rumors from from people that have seen the house after, but the idea of your sister being a ghost really stuck with me because I think it's really hard to mourn a family member when they die suddenly and you don't really have a lot of answers why. And it just humanizes ghosts in a different way because, yes, I believe in ghosts. I believe that sometimes you get stuck. And I think he did a great job of putting that out there where there's a lot of unknowns. There's these kind of weird time jumps where the crooked neck lady, which is Nell, is haunting her younger self. I've never seen that done before, and it's so upsetting and such a great metaphor in a way for like things like depression
Yeah.
and mental illness. But all of these characters had these sort of nuances, and I think he did the perfect amount of unexplainedness. That's not a word, but
Yeah.
we're going to make it a word.
We get it.
Yeah. With the hot, crazy flapper ghost and all these other ghosts, you know, there's hints at a backstory,
Yeah.
but we never really know. And I think that's really powerful because
Yeah.
you never know when someone dies, and it is really painful.
Yeah. And I think there was also, like you said, it is at its core a family drama.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've also experienced how an untimely death can ruin relationships that may or may not have been good before, but
Mm-hmm.
it was,
The floodgates open.
yeah, and it took Nell, you know, doing all of that to finally get her family back together, and I think it was dealt really well. But I also feel like if we're talking about the ghosts in this particular series, and in general the way Mike Flanagan like crafts these stories, I feel like the connection that we have with Nell, there are other ghosts in the series, but I think that having her as like a viewpoint and having so much backstory just amplified the other ghosts around.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a amazing like rewatchable show where you like notice different things in the
Mhm.
background, and I love that.
Every
I'm a
time,
huge
dude.
sucker for that. But I think, yeah, just her story like amplified all the other mysterious, like, you know, the
Mhm.
time jumps and, you know, the room that everyone kept using as a different room. It just made everything, it made me more invested.
Me
Because
too.
sometimes with other ghosts in different films, it is a scary presence,
Mm-hmm.
and then they might give like an expositional backstory or something,
Mhm.
but sometimes it's just not enough to like bring me in or like make me feel scared.
Well, the only film I can think of that comes close to it. But even then, we didn't get nearly as much backstory. We got a little bit, and it was still done really well.
Mhm.
It's like The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
We get a little bit of that, but with Nell, it's like visually, she is the scariest ghost.
Hmm.
He chose visually the goriest and most, I mean, outside of like hauntings, like the most haunting ghost to focus and center everything around. I think
Yeah.
is fascinating, and I think it was a brilliant artistic choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And a great, I mean, it is an adaptation,
Mm.
a great adaptation at that. I
Yes.
think, yeah, I'm excited. I want to watch Midnight Club. I think
Midnight
is-
Club?
Yeah.
It was fun.
that's- Yeah. I'm going to get into that soon. But yeah, I'm excited and hopeful for anything else in the Flaniverse.
Flaniverse. We love Flaniverse.
Yeah.
So, outside the Flaniverse, what would be your favorite ghost horror movies?
So I would like to start off just because we spoke about a lot of similar elements that are
Mhm.
also in this movie. I want to talk about The Presence. Have
Which
you
I
seen
haven't
that?
seen yet.
Oh, Presence, sorry.
Let me double check.
I think I think you're right. It's just Presence. But yeah, just Presence. Yeah. I think, well, first and foremost, if we're talking about ghosts, it's a great ghost movie.
Mhm.
Horror, maybe not that much, but that's why I wanted to talk about it, because it is a family drama at the core of it as well.
Mhm.
And I won't give too much away, but it's a story about this family, and they enter a new home,
Mhm.
as families do in horror movies. And the dynamics in this family are a bit odd, where the mother, they call her like a tiger mom. She loves her son a lot. She doesn't care about her daughter. The father loves the daughter a lot. So the two siblings, the
Are
son and
split.
daughter, are kind of, yeah, at odds with each other. And I think the names are Chloe and Tyler.
Mhm.
And so the story basically takes off with Chloe has just lost a friend called Nadia,
Oh.
and she
Like died?
senses, yeah,
Okay.
and
She OD'd.
OD'd, yeah. Her
How
friend
old is
OD'd.
Chloe?
High schoolers.
She's, yeah,
They're both high schoolers.
yeah.
Okay.
They moved into this house, I think, because they wanted Tyler to go to a better school, so they moved her out of her house, and she's in a new place, unknown, and she senses a presence in the house, which she believes is Nadia, and the obviously the biggest part of this movie is that we see the entire movie through the perspective of the ghost, and which is an amazing artistic choice. I was worried that it would get very monotonous and boring, but it does, with the time that it does really well. And we follow the story with, this friend that Tyler brings home. He's a bit odd and not a great character, and yeah, it's just again, it's like a family drama that has so many elements of grief that do really well to portray, what would impact your mind, like mental state, into believing these things, and your sensitivity to these things and all of that, which I may or may not believe, but it was done very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine even like the idea of pointing that there's something there would bring up a lot of more inner turmoil and even more fights,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, it's just, even without the presence in the house, there's just so much more going on with
There's
them.
tension.
And yeah, and it's like, there's a scene where they get, I think, a medium or something to kind of check out what's happening in the house. And she does kind of touch on the fact that, usually it's people who have experienced loss, grief, trauma in their lives who are more susceptible to these things, who are more sensitive and aware of these presences.
We actually
Whatever.
had that happen when we were on my family. I was really struggling, as I've said before, to fit in when we first moved to Colorado. So my dad planned a trip, and we went to tour the Stanley Hotel, which is where The Shining's set. And it was weird. A medium came on that tour and we went through some loss around that time. And a medium kept going up to me and my little brother and being like, there's like an off energy with you two. Like, you've been through something or someone has died and things are attaching to you.
Yikes.
You hate to hear it, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
But
god.
nothing crazy's ever happened to me, so come on.
Again, with
Damn it.
like mediums and stuff, I'm like, okay. But yeah.
That's interesting. So, was it scary?
No. I would
But
say,
sometimes I don't want that in a ghost movie.
yeah, and that's why I say I don't really consider it a horror movie, because just because it's ghosts doesn't mean it's horror. I mean, there is like an uncomfortable part in the movie, where the friend that Tyler brings in,
Spoilers.
starts getting closer to Chloe, and he has bad intentions. That's what I'll say. But it's nothing graphic or anything.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's, even with some of the marketing, I think the movie tried to sell itself as scary, but it's not.
It's a drama.
Yeah, I think. But yeah, I mean, if more people watch it, that's great. Obviously, I would vouch for that. But yeah, I was expecting
More jump scares.
Yeah, which I guess can't happen because we're watching through
Yeah.
the perspective of the ghost, and I knew that going in. But yeah, still a great movie.
That's interesting. It
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of. Did you watch A24's A Ghost Story? I think it came out 2017 or 2018.
Maybe.
It's where. It's the reason I got my tattoo. It's be weird.
Keep the dogs covered.
Letting the ghost out.
Oh, the little ghost.
Yeah, the little ghost. It's from.
That
A
zoom in
Ghost
that we'll
Story.
have to do.
Yeah. But that's probably so weird that
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah, we'll insert a picture in
We'll
post.
insert a
So
picture.
if you're listening to us on
Yeah,
Spotify or
if you want
something,
my
no, let's not. If you're listening on the audio only version, tune in.
Anyways, outside of feet, it sounds very similar to A Ghost Story, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, which is about a guy that he is in this deep relationship with a girl, and then he tragically dies in a car accident, and the entire film is pretty much from his perspective, but he's a classic ghost covered with a sheet.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's weird. There's like these really interesting time jumps. He gets annoyed with the new people that move into his house.
Yeah.
Because he's confused. And I think it gives a lot of context to what I hope is not a shared experience for people, what that experience would be like, though.
Yeah.
That perspective.
When I think also what makes sense a lot with these ghost movies is that ghosts don't experience time in a linear way.
They don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. And it's amazing to see, like, Presence is a great rewatch movie, I think, because the first time you watch and then there's a reveal at the end and blah, blah, blah. But then once you know what's happening in the movie, when you watch it the second time, things have a totally different meaning.
Oh, I love that.
Which is
like
amazing.
the setups are
yeah.
very well paid off.
Yeah, like when in Haunting of Hill House, then when you see young Nell interact with
Ugh.
the bent neck lady, you're like,
You're like, oh, that's so sad.
heartbreaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's interesting. That kind of brings me to my choice, which is I was thinking of changing it, but I do really love this movie, The Black Phone.
Nice.
So for our listeners, The Black Phone is a movie that came out a few years ago with Ethan Hawke. I really loved it because it's set in Colorado. I love anything set in Colorado because that's where I'm from. But it's about this kid in the 70s, and there's these weird disappearances going on with boys in the neighborhood. They don't live in the safest part of Denver. So the cops aren't really doing a ton of things, and it's just kind of known that young boys need to be on watch. And unfortunately, this boy gets taken by, I can't think of the name of what, is it The Taker?
I thought it was like The Magician or something.
It's something. But anyways, Ethan Hawke, I mean, incredible iconography, but he wears this...
The Grabber.
The Grabber. So the Grabber takes him into his van and entices him with a black balloon. And he wakes up and he's in this basement and he doesn't know if he's going to make it out or not. So that's like the survival instinct, like, holy fuck, the worst has happened. I've been kidnapped by a possible serial killer, which it turns out he is a serial killer. And this, I can't call my parents. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So then this black phone, hence the title, appears. And it's ringing. So he picks it up and he's like, okay, maybe this is my way out. Well, it's not exactly a way out right away. The black phone is somehow a connection to the supernatural world. And this is how he starts to communicate with all the ghost boys, several of which he knew, one of which he was close friends with. And they teach him how he can outwit the Grabber and survive. And each lesson he learns, he gets that much closer. And I don't want to spoil it. I want people to watch, but let's just say these were really great lessons. But it's really sad because we see these boys in these slices of life. And are they perfect boys? No, they're doing stupid shit. They're
Who cares?
They're poor
They're
kids
kids
growing up in Denver. Like, there's not really much for them to do.
Yeah.
And some of them are rebels, some of them are nerds. And they're just going about their lives, and this man just wants to take it all from them and snuff it out for his own selfish addiction. Sadistic pleasure, which is getting off on taking. And there's hints, I will let everyone know, trigger warning. and trigger warning if you plan to watch the movie. There's hints, we don't see it, but it sounds like he does maybe do very dirty things with these boys as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like such a fucking win that they're able to connect with this boy, though. And the way the ghosts are portrayed is they are a little scary because they get really angry.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes sense, too, because they're hormonal little boys. And they don't really know how to handle themselves when they're alive. So, of course, in the afterlife, they're not going to know how to do that. But I just loved that movie. I was instantly hooked. And it's one of those horror movies that did make me cry. And I think that's important with ghost movies. I want to be moved, and I want to really feel for the ghost. I don't want to be afraid of ghosts, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's such a deeper emotion if you can feel with them and be moved, but it's awesome to be a little afraid too.
Yeah.
You would like presents.
Yeah. I think you would.
It sounds like totally up my alley.
Yeah. I think also with the black phone, I saw a clip of that first, you know, the one where he's teaching him to fight.
Mm-hmm. It's a very sweet clip.
Which I didn't understand that. And then I watched the movie and I was like, oh my God, that's what was happening. That's the context. And then the scene where he tries to sneak up the stairs and Ethan Hawke is waiting.
And he's got the gun and I think he's shirtless.
I think he has a belt, not a gun. I thought maybe he has a gun.
It is a belt.
It is a belt, yeah. But again with like ghosts are not always the conduit for horror in a lot of movies because there's so much
eeriness around it. And it's all the adults, which is interesting with the black phone.
Yeah.
The dad's really scary because he's super intense and he doesn't know how to deal with his kids now that his wife's gone.
Yeah.
And then the grabber's obviously really scary because he seems so real.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's that, I think the grabber is very much based off of the Atlanta murders.
Mm-hmm. But also like things like that happen. Mm-hmm. That's why it's like it feels
kids
so
are
real.
so at risk.
Yeah.
So the time we have left, do you guys want to see why people are so attracted to the idea of ghosts?
If you look across cultures, and this is why I'm such a hardcore believer.
Mm-hmm.
Even fucking cave paintings. There's so much collective evidence of people believing in ghosts, but at the same time, I think dying is such a scary idea to people.
Yeah.
Especially, like, back then, like, long time ago, and even when it happens now. The idea of losing someone before their time, because you rarely hear about, like, a haunting at a fucking nursing home, you know? The idea of someone going away young or in a weird way that just wasn't natural or dying of, like, a disease that came out of nowhere is heartbreaking, and it's, like, as I said, it's not of natural causes. It's unnatural. So I do wonder if it's, like, our brains can't process what that's like, and we need to know for that person. But at the same time, knowing that a person dies out of nowhere, it puts us all at risk. We're like, oh, shit, we could literally drop any minute.
Yeah.
And having to reason with what happens next.
Yeah.
Or the idea of just being nothing. But personally, I do believe that there's something.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think there is a lot of, there are also a lot of studies that show that people want to believe that there's either something beyond or, there has to be another explanation or something that happens afterwards or another plane of existence. But yeah, I think it stems a lot from the belief that even if it is from natural causes, I think there's a lot of like...
scariness.
No, I think there's a lot of hope that is attached with like, oh, maybe they're still here, like maybe I can still hold on to some version of them, like there's a ghost or something, which is then turned into like, if it's a bad ghost or something.
That's what I'm questioning. I'm like, so how would you explain then like angry ghost or ghosts that just like that people have an idea of that pop out of nowhere?
To go back to our favorite creative writing teacher, I think it's grief.
Yeah.
Like a ghost torturing someone?
No, I think, I mean, I say that it's made up, but my thing is that it's all a manifestation of something, right?
Subconscious, yeah.
Like there's always going to be some internal factor. Even in the if we're just talking about films, in the ghost films that we see, there's some internal conflict that's happening.
This is true.
Exactly. Even with, I think there was one of the, this is just what came to mind, the Insidious movies, where this one girl lost her mother, and that was an internal conflict that was happening, which, manifested into this fear of this, like,
presence.
Yeah, like the man upstairs or something like that. And obviously in the film it's like, oh, the man was real or something. But yeah, I think your own grief and trauma has a lot to do with
how you translate that.
Yeah.
I believe in ghosts personally, like, but that's for me. I don't have answers to a lot of things. I just believe there are things happening. I don't believe that we just disappear. Like what you're saying about energies.
Yeah.
Just now. I believe that there's no way that there's so much that happens in our lives and we must be powerful energies. I feel like that's what ghosts become, but I do believe that it is ghosts. Like I feel like ghosts have an energy to them. And if you guys want me to post it when we post this, I have a picture that I didn't Photoshop or anything from a ghost tour where there's very visibly a hand on my face, a ghostly hand. So you guys can debate that in the comment section.
Yeah.
But anyways, my name's Becky.
And my name is Sahiti. Stay alive till next time.